Tonight we are learning more about Ethan Berkowitz's top opponent for Anchorage mayor.
Rebecca Logan is running on a platform of public safety and responsible spending. But KTVA discovered Logan herself has had run-ins with the law in both of those areas.
KTVA 11's Liz Raines has been reviewing court documents on the candidate and joins us with the story you will see only on KTVA. Liz.
Well, Joe and Emily, we did an online background check on Logan as part of our campaign coverage. Right away, we saw some red flags, so we kept digging through hundreds of documents, and what we found was a paper trail that includes arrest, wage garnishments, and lawsuits.
Rebecca Logan is Mayor Ethan Berkowitz's best financed opponent in the Anchorage nonpartisan race. The 54-year-old has been endorsed by the Republican Party. While opponents normally run on promises, Logan has a record she hasn't spoken about publicly.
The worst thing that ever happened to me and the best thing that ever happened to me.
In 2010, Logan was arrested for drunk driving after witnesses and police saw her weaving down a South Anchorage road. She registered nearly twice the legal limit.
It's tough on you emotionally because you're embarrassed about it and you have to tell people about it.
Her record doesn't end there. As a candidate, Logan promises to be tough on crime and responsibly manage the budget.
So I've spent my entire life solving problems for businesses.
Court documents dating back to the early 2000s show a series of wage garnishments and financial lawsuits. In 2007, Key Bank sued Logan for more than $11,000 for failure to pay on a personal line of credit. A judge ordered her wages garnished. Logan didn't settle with the bank until 3 years later in 2010. Also in 2007, Wells Fargo sued for nearly $3,000 after Logan didn't pay on furniture she bought at Sadler's Home Furnishings, financed through the bank. That debt wasn't settled until 9 years later in 2016. Then, in 2006, Cash America took Logan to court for a bounced check of more than $500, one she was ordered to pay $1,200 for in 2008.
There was like several $1,000s in claims with Wells Fargo, Key Bank,
yes, and again, those were all
with Cash Alaska.
Those were all turning over assets in a sale, and there was also a divorce involved. And so there were several things that ended up going that route.
The sale Logan is referring to remains unclear. State records show 2 of Logan's businesses were dissolved by 2003, and the last in 2007, around the time her financial troubles began. That same year, a court again ordered Logan's wages to be garnished. Eventually, the court tried to garnish her dividend, but state records show Logan stopped filing for one in 2008.
I just didn't feel good about taking money that I didn't earn.
Today, court records show the DUI and lawsuits are behind her. And Rebecca Logan, the mayoral candidate, is now asking for the public's trust moving forward.
Now, there's more to this story, including a case where Logan used her position with a former employer to block court-ordered wage garnishments. You can read the full story on our website, ktva.com.
So, Liz, if you found this information in Logan's online records, did the Republican Party know about the history before it endorsed her as a candidate?
Well, we posed that question to the party's chairman, Tuckerman Babcock, this afternoon, but we have not received a response.
All right, Liz, thanks. The candidate for a South Anchorage Senate seat is facing charges of welfare fraud tonight after allegedly lying about her family's income in order to receive food stamps. KTVA 11's Liz Raines has been digging into this story, and she joins us with what court documents reveal about the accusations against Rebecca Hallett and her husband, Jarek. Liz.
Well, Joe, according to those documents, Rebecca Hallett, who goes by Becca, and her husband, Jarek Hallett, allegedly collected more than $10,000 in food stamps for which they should never have been eligible. The payment started in March of last year and ran through this month. Investigators with the program's fraud unit claim the couple's finances during that time were well above eligibility and that the family was only approved for those benefits because Becca and Jarek failed to report all of their bank accounts and income when filing.
The signs around South Anchorage intend to draw attention to 33-year-old Becca Hallett as a candidate for state senate. But in June, her campaign drew attention to something it hadn't intended, an investigation into Hallett's personal finances that has now led to felony charges for welfare fraud. It all started in March of 2017. Hallett's husband, Jarek, applied for food stamps after being laid off by AT&T. Jarek claimed Becca had no reportable income, and as a result, the couple qualified qualified for more than $600 a month in benefits. In January of 2018, Jarek applied to renew those benefits and was approved for monthly payments through the end of this month. In all, the state says the couple illegally received more than $10,000 in food stamps over a year and a half. Perhaps none of this information would have been called into question if it weren't for this. Becca filed for state office at the end of May, and it was that campaign that caused the now candidate trouble. On June 20th, the Department of Public Assistance received a tip claiming Hollett and her husband were committing welfare fraud. The anonymous person reportedly became concerned when Becca solicited political support while canvassing the neighborhood. Indeed, Hollett's campaign website touts her experience as a successful business owner and a consultant to other businesses. That led investigators to Super Beans, an apparent coffee shop for which Hollett is a sole proprietor with an active business license. And the bank account for her campaign donations drew attention to others the couple had not reported, at least 4 other personal accounts, including one in which Hollett's husband had been depositing monthly payments from Uber and Lyft. The largest account contained more than $30,000, which Hollett and her husband explained were for their daughter's college savings. The investigator countered by asking the couple if they were able to walk into the bank and withdraw the funds at any time. Both Jarek and Becca responded yes. After that, Becca reportedly admitted they were not truthful in their food stamp application. Now facing felony charges, candidate Becca Hollett says her campaign continues. And as for addressing the accusations, Hollett says she's waiting to do that in the proper venue.
According to court documents, Hollett and her husband reportedly admitted to investigators that they were not truthful in their food stamp application. Without commenting on the accusations, Hollett told us in an email today that she has been straightforward and honest, even when it upsets her attorney, adding that she looks forward to addressing the allegations in the proper venue. The couple's arraignment is set for August 24th, 3 days after the primary election, Joe.
Liz, Hollett is running as a Republican. What does the party say about this?
Well, GOP Chairman Tuckerman Babcock said in a statement today that the party is shocked by the charges, but also disappointed by the state's timing, which he says seems political, adding that the Republican Party can only hope that the Holletts have a good explanation for the situation.
She contributed thousands of dollars to her own campaign while the state says she was illegally collecting food stamps. Last night we told you about the felony charges state Senate candidate Becca Hollett faces for welfare fraud. KTVA 11's Liz Raines has continued to dig into the candidate's background and joins us now with what else in Hollett's candidacy doesn't check out, including a pageant crown. Liz.
But Joe, after the state came out with felony charges against Hollett for welfare fraud earlier this month, we wondered whether the rest of Hollett's story checks out, and it turns out there's quite a bit that doesn't.
On paper, 33-year-old Becca Hollett is an accomplished woman. Her campaign website says she owns 2 businesses and lists more than a dozen awards, including being named Mrs. Alaska in 2014. But we couldn't find any evidence of Hollett in that role. In fact, according to the Mrs. Alaska USA's website, Mrs. Alaska 2014 was a woman named Erica Chilla, and the Mrs. Alaska America pageant says their winner that year was April Wallen. Both pageants say they're the only 2 sanctioned pageants in the state. According to their records, Hollett has never won a state pageant, though she has competed in the past. But that's perhaps the most benign of the inconsistencies in Hollett's campaign. Earlier this month, the state of Alaska filed felony charges against Hollett and her husband Jarek for welfare fraud. According to charging documents, investigators found the couple had a bank account that contained between $35,000 and $40,000 at the time. The state later concluded the couple was well above the food stamps resource limit during the entire time they received food stamps. During that time, Hollett somehow contributed thousands of dollars of her own money to her campaign. According to state records, Hollett made 2 $2,000 deposits just last month while on public assistance. Hollett identifies as self-employed, listing her occupation as a businesswoman. But according to state records, Hollett has just 1 active business license for a mobile food service called Super Beans. A Facebook page with that name identifies the business as a coffee shop. But when we went to the location listed online, all we found was an empty parking lot. With several claims that don't appear to match up, Hollett's bid for office now raises questions about whether what's printed on her campaign site is really an accurate reflection of what's written in her past.
Now, we've reached out to Hollett about all of these discrepancies, including whether Super Beans is still operational, but have not received a response. Meanwhile, she and her husband are scheduled for an arraignment on charges of food stamp fraud on August 24th. That's 3 days after the primary election, Joe.
Liz, if Hollett is convicted of those charges, what kind of penalty does she face?
Well, since those are felony charges, Hollett could get jail time up to 6 years if convicted on all charges. Her husband also faces similar charges.
All right, Liz, thanks.